All right, Rich, let's dive into today's topic. How could families financially afford kids?
All right, let's do it. How's everybody doing out there? So yes, kids, as we know, are very, very expensive. So I have three kids. I have a 15-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 5-year-old. And unfortunately, the cost it just keeps going up and up to have kids. And these days, with all the new gadgets and everything, my friends have this, my friends have
Yeah.
that. It's hard and having them spread out. So I'll talk a little bit about some strategies that I've used to try to deal with this and handle it. And, like the same thing with adults where it all comes down to like financial education. I try to instill that in my kids also. So I think from a very young age, teaching them the basics about money, how money works, savings, allowances, how much things cost. All of those things are very important for your kids to start understanding from a very young age. So, like my 15-year-old, he is very aware about money, almost to the point where maybe it's like too much, where he's like, wow, how does it cost that much? He's like, I'm not buying that. It's way too expensive, which is great. But sometimes I think he worries about it too much for a 15-year-old, but it's just good to be aware. So even things like with the price of gas right now, my daughter who's 10, we have a Jeep, right? So we have a Jeep Cherokee. And when the prices were, I mean, they've come down a little bit, but not too long ago, it would be $100. I go to the gas station, it would be $100 to fill the tank, and it would stop you at 100. They wouldn't let you go above that. And she would see $100 on the gas tank and she's like, oh my God, it costs $100 to put gas in the car. And I'm like, yeah, like it's absolutely crazy. And then they start equating that to other things, so they want to go buy a t-shirt. Like if you want a Nike shirt these days, even in the kid size, it's like $25, and it's like they spill stuff on it. They outgrow it so quickly, like the name brand things. So I want them to be very aware of the cost of things and the value. Does it actually provide value? I mean, another thing that is absolutely ridiculous these days is like with the PlayStation or the Xbox. When we were kids, if you wanted to play a game, right? If I wanted to play Madden back when I was in high school, which I loved playing, I would sit there. Well, first I would beg my mom, to buy it. She'd make me earn the money, right? Save it up. I would buy Madden. Even back then, it might have been like $50 for, I think Madden just came out when I was in high school or maybe college.
I just bought it. It's 75 with tax.
So, but that's only, you're just like at that's only the baseline, right? It's $75 plus tax. So my son plays 2K like crazy, right? NBA 2K.
Yeah.
And the new one just came out and he wants like the gold version of it. It was $100. And
Don't do that version. It will be deeply discounted in a month.
I know, right? So you get like the VC, the virtual currency, right? Yeah. Where they really rip you off, and the kids just don't get it, is they make you pay for everything after that. So it's not the price of the game anymore. Now it's all the add-ons. So it's like, oh, my son wants to open up packs so he could get these good players, or he wants his player to wear, the newest Jordans or the cool jersey, whatever it is. And he always wants to be putting money into the game. So if it was only $100 and we were done, I'd be cool with that, but it's like $100 is just a starting point. Then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I want to, put money in so I could buy more VCs, more virtual currency. And it's like, they just want to keep feeding the beast. I feel like it's illegal what they're doing with video games. Fortnite was another one where you could buy the skins. My kids always wanted to buy the skins, and people that are playing against had the coolest skins. And it was like in this virtual world, they were keeping up with the Joneses in virtual reality. Yeah. And it's crazy. So that's one thing that I really have tried to like nip in the bud. When my kids get presents or things like that for their birthdays and they want to spend some money on these games, I'll allow it. But I'm always trying to compare, well, what else could you do with that money? And introducing investing and savings and things that they might want later on in life. So my 15-year-old, he might want a car, right? He's going to be turning 16. I'm like, wouldn't you rather save money up so you could get a car when you're 16, 17 years old instead of blowing it on this stuff that is just going to be obsolete in a few months? So education, right? Just helping them understand how it works, I think really is the first step. And with me having three kids, I'm a big hand-me-down person, but my kids are a little bit spread out. So also just tricking them into thinking it's like, oh, you get to wear your older brother's clothes and they're really cool, and trying to keep that stuff, new and fresh so that we could hand it down to the next person. Also relatives. It's like I have a lot of nieces and nephews, so I'm always making sure to get their hand-me-down clothes as long as they're in good conditions, right? We don't want our kids to look like they just rolled out of a dumpster. But if we could get hand-me-downs and save money on clothes, I'm all about that, man. I am so against going into like Dick's right now and you want to get just an outfit. It's like you can't get a kid's outfit for less than $100. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you would think it's like dress clothes. It's just athletic clothes, and it's like triple the price.
Yeah, and they're going to spill stuff on it, and we're going to wash it, and it's going to shrink, and it's just not going to last as long as you want it to. It's like the same shirts that used to be $10 are now $30, and I just refuse to do it, man. So even that stuff, like I'll search for sales. I'll go on sites like Fanatics, where they have like crazy discounted sales on. You get a Yankee shirt from like the last time they won the pennant or whatever. So
Oh yeah.
3 or 4 years old, but it's like $3. I'm like, I don't care what year it says on it. We're going with that one. Or like the college.
That site is dangerous, though. That site is dangerous.
Yeah. Oh, it is. They suck you in. They do. They suck you
in.
Yeah.
They get you with the $3 one. Next thing you know, you're buying all the memorabilia and stuff.
Yeah, you got to stay with. So I don't let my kids shop on it. I'll shop on it for my kids. But my kids are into sports, so I'll get them that kind of stuff. The college shirts, you could get some good deals on like last year's bowl winners and things like that. But yeah, so just trying to keep the cost down because everything is obscene, So it all. My point here, it all starts with education, and you want your kids to be educated very early as well, so that they start to value money, right? That they don't just think that whatever I want, I'm going to get. And my friend over there, they have the newest iPhone. I want the newest iPhone. They could have it. Why can't I have it? Like those are the conversations that I find myself having all the time, and I want to tread lightly because I don't want to make it seem like oh well, we can't afford that. They could afford that. I don't want to approach it from that way. I want to approach it more from, even if we can afford it, it's just not in our values. It isn't that important to us. That that's where we want to be spending our money. There are better things that we could be doing with our money for our future to live the life that we want to live, where we don't need all that material crap, in order to do it. So some things, I get it. Some things I understand, but you can't do it across the board. You have to be very cognizant of where your money's going, what you're spending your money on, and you don't want to drive yourself into the ground trying to make your kids look like they come from a wealthy family or that they're, on top of the mountain, like all that stuff. It just doesn't matter,
It's a huge challenge because I always balance like guilt into it. So like, I don't want to disappoint my kids. I want them, when we go to the store, I really want them to have everything that's in the store. It's just not possible. We just can't keep up with it. Half of it becomes garbage, more than half of it actually. Yeah. And it's just, you have to balance, what we're going to purchase. Is it intentional? Is this something that we've been thinking about? Have we walked out of the store already and then we've come back into the store and we still want it? So especially like when the kids are young, they don't really know the value of money. So I'm kind of at the point where I'm trying to educate my kids. They're 7 years old and it's, there's no common sense yet, right, with that. So I'm not really at the point where they really understand the value of money. They just think it grows on trees. Daddy does the thing with the computer and it's money and we get money. But that's not the case, right? I'm cringing every time I buy these things and stuff like that. So it's, especially when you have multiple kids, it could just become, you have to buy 2 of everything or 3 of everything. So you have to kind of just be very mindful of how you're going to spend the money. Is it going to be worth it? Is it going to be valued? Is it going to create memories? So you have to really kind of just scale it back and understand what you're going to buy and what does that mean for the kid. And do not worry about guilt. Do not worry about other people. And the one thing you should never do is go into debt over buying your kid's stuff. There's just no need for it. No matter how bad the kid wants it, do not swipe the card for stuff that's meaningless. It's just pointless because the kids can get clothes somehow. They can get toys somehow. Half the parents in today's world, they're trying to get rid of their crap. They'll give it to you gladly. Your kid will put a smile on their face and you just saved whatever amount of money. So do not go into debt over this because it's going to set you back. You're going to be a poor family. Who wants to be a poor family? Like, you're going to look nice with your Nike shirt on, but you're going to, like live in like a crappy house because, you made an impulsive decision. So just don't do that over kids. Remember, you're the parent, which means you're the boss. So act like that financially and don't let your kids boss you around because, they don't really know yet what the value of money is and how it could set you back. So that's just a big, like, huge thing for me.
Yep. No, I'm on board too. And again, I keep saying it, but it just does come down to education and awareness and them understanding how it goes. And you as a parent, you have to get very good at saying no. I am very, very good at saying no, right? It just rolls off my tongue very quickly. I'm like, what, are you crazy? You think I'm spending
my money? I'm learning now.
Hell,
I'm learning now.
Yep. But my wife, on the other hand, she's more of like, well, they could really use this or they need this.
Yeah.
Like you know, my son the other day was something that he needed. I forget what it is off the top of my head right now. I think it was like a new PlayStation remote. It's like he's fighting with me and he's like, well, I need that. I'm like, no, I'm like, you want that. There's a very big difference between a want and a need. If you're going to starve him right now, then you need food to survive. You need shelter, right? You need to be able to walk out of this house and have clothing on. You need school supplies so that you could go learn at school. You want him to go have the newest PlayStation controller. That is a want. And if you want to spend your money on that, then you need to earn it. You need to save that money. And then you can make the decision if that's a smart thing for you to do. But I'm just not giving you the money to do it. And my daughter, who is 10, all of her friends, you know, they all had like the newest iPhone starting at like age 8, age 9. And we fought it for a long time. We're like, there's no way that you're getting a new phone. And finally, for her 10th birthday, we did break down and do it. But there was a big reason why we did it. She was always searching for deals, like we have Verizon, right? So she was looking at like getting maybe a hand-me-down phone on eBay or something like that. And then Verizon came out with one of those promotions where, you know, they give you the phone for free. And and I had her like studying the bills and looking at Verizon and seeing, I'm like, listen, I'm not increasing my bill to get you a phone at 10 years old when you really just don't need one. And she has an iPad already, you know? So I didn't want to do that to begin with. And my wife was kind of breaking my chops about it. So my daughter came to me like a month before her birthday. She's like, listen, Verizon's running a special right now where you could get a new phone if you add a line for $0. And she even dug into it and talked to somebody at Verizon where if you add, I think that we were the fourth line because me, my wife, and my 15-year-old have a phone. When you add a fourth line, like each line gets a $10 discount. So now she's selling me on. She's like, listen, it's not even going to add any more to your monthly bill. And I was like, wow. I was like, look at you, you know, doing your homework on this thing. So we ended up getting her an iPhone. You know, I mean, it was I think an iPhone 12 that didn't add any money to our bill, and the phone was at no cost on there. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But it comes down to education, you know, and it's like even when we go out to eat, it's like if the five of us go out to a restaurant and the bill is $130. Like, I just look around, I ask everybody, I'm like, you know, do we all think that this is worth it? You know, especially now that you know how much other things cost. Like even my daughter, she's like, yeah, $100 to fill up the tank, $130 to go out to eat. Then they start asking questions like, well, how much money do you earn? Right. And then you could get into things like, well, look at this person working, you know, here is earning this much. So it becomes, you know, the decisions become harder depending on your job and your monthly income and how much you could allocate towards things, towards needs versus wants. And now we talk about, you know, mortgage payments, how much it costs us to have the house and all of that stuff. And they just start getting this education. And all I'm doing is talking about it all the time and making them think about it rather than just saying, okay, yes, you could have this. Let's go and do it. You know, so it's hard. And I'm learning, you know, it's been 15 years since I've had, you know, started having kids, and I'm learning every day because I don't know it all. I don't know how to teach them about money and how to have the conversations and, you know, how to balance it. So it's a learning experience for all of us, but I'm taking the approach of just laying it all out there, and every decision I want them in on so that they understand what it takes to run a household, to run a budget, and then investing. That's a whole nother ballgame, you know? So like all these things, I just think everybody needs to be talking about it all the time with their kids and their wives and husbands and everybody out there.
Yeah, you're making them feel the pain. That's then they're really going to appreciate it, and then they're really going to see the value of it. Because you know, if it takes the pain to get there, and it takes strategy and takes saving, they're going to really make a decision. Do I really need this, or it's just impulsive crap that I'm just not going to care about? So you know, that's just make your kids go through the pain, no matter how old they are. I used to feel guilty, you know, when my kids were say 5. I'm just like, here I am, this cheap dad, you know, putting my kids through the pain, saying no and stuff like that. But then I realized what we would have bought was garbage, and we, you know, it's just, they grow out of it. It becomes a trend. It's just all garbage at the end of the day. So
I learned mistakes. You know, like I made mistakes along the way. And that's how I learned to finally do it. It's like, all right, let's get the nice new, you know, Nike t-shirt. And then I see, you know, that my son just doesn't take care of it, or he loses it. He leaves it at school and it's gone. And I'm like, dude, I'm not spending all this money on clothes if you're not going to take care of them, and you're just going to, you know, lose it or leave it on the bus or whatever the case may be, or ruin it. It's like, let's get the cheap stuff, man. You know, like, why are we wasting money on this stuff?
Yeah, exactly. So something else that a lot of families are going through is those financial pressures, right? You have a kid and you gotta be perfect, right? You gotta live like how other people are living. You get the pressures from family, you get pressures from people in your neighborhood, from the schools. Rich, how have you kind of dealt with the financial pressures, as I'm sure you've been dealing with it for 15 years of when you had a kid? So how did you really kind of balance that? And, you know, tell us your mistakes. Tell us how you overcame those mistakes. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I mean, it has been trial by error. So it has me, me learning that when you say yes to everything and you do get the nicest of stuff, that they don't take care of it, right? So you do want to instill that discipline in them, or at least make them have skin in the game, right? So that was the biggest thing for me, was having skin in the game. And as far as trying to keep up with neighbors and keeping up with the Joneses and everything, I just try to educate, and just say, like, listen, like, we have no idea what other people's financial situations are. You can't worry about what other people are doing or what other people have. You just never know what's going on under the surface. And there are people that are very wealthy, that have very nice things, and they're miserable, right? So it's not all about having the fanciest and nicest things. It's just not that important in life. Like, as long as you have the things, that get you by, that get you into doing things. Like, we all like to have nice things. I'm not saying that we don't splurge on things every once in a while, but you have to have the skin in the game, and you have to save for those things. Like, if you have a goal, so like another example, like my daughter plays softball and she wants to get one of these ghost bats, they're called, right? And girls on her team have these bats, and they're very nice. And if you get a new one, it's like $400 for one of these bats. And she's 10. I'm like, you're crazy. I'm not spending $400 on a bat that you're going to outgrow, right? So then it's like, all right, why don't we start looking on eBay? Why don't we start looking at other places and see if you get one of these bats, used? And then she started getting money for her birthday from family and friends. I'm like, you better put that money to the side. If you find a bat that you want, at least you have some savings that you could do it. You could do some chores around the house. There are things you can do. So if there's really something that is way outside of my comfort zone, like the bat she uses right now, we got it for whatever, $50 at Dick's, and it works just fine, right? But these composite bats, these ghost bats, I guess, the girls hit the ball further. So I'm like, if you really want to do that, I'm like, I will help you. Like, I will pay you to do, whatever chores it is. I'll throw some matching dollars in there and try to help you get to that number. But you got to take your savings. You got to earn your way there. And then if you decide to spend your money on that, then I'll support you on that. So there are certain things. But like, yeah, in my neighborhood, you have people driving the Range Rovers and living in the mansion, McMansions and everything. And it's hard to have those conversations when, your kids are like, well, why don't we have a pool in the backyard, right? Or why don't we have, the huge house up on the hill and all those things. And it's tough. It's tough to instill in them that stuff just isn't the most important thing, Like,
it's hard. I've always battled, especially the younger me, I've always battled with comparison and just comparing people. And once I reach a certain level, then I compare the status that's the next level up, right, that I haven't achieved. And it really just led me to unhappiness. And it's never ending. I'm never going to, be, this rich person that has all these things. And even if I was, I don't think I'd be happy, and it would all fall apart anyway. So one thing that I decided once I had kids is to just shut it down. And I just lived, I kind of like discovered like minimalism. And I just really hustled, made a lot of money. And at the same time, I act like I made nothing. So I lived like a poor person. I basically just tried to pay off all my debt and just sock away all that money. And I never really celebrated getting, good contracts with companies and stuff like that. So all I did was just shut it down, because I had that thing in my brain that I was going to buy something stupid and I was going to one up constantly. And it's still in me today, and I still constantly battle that. Every time a dollar comes in, I try to figure out a way on how to blow it. So the best way I could just stop it and just stop comparing and worrying about what the Joneses are doing, I would just shut it down, be minimalistic. Half the crap you see on my wall is from before I discovered that. I would buy everything. I always had to get all these cool things, and I always, I was always missing out on something. I decided I'm not going to care if I miss out on something. And I did that for about, I'd say, 6 to 7 years. And, now I'm at the point where I'm financially free, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should kind of circle back on the things I wanted to buy. And I realized none of that meant anything. It really has no value to this day when I could easily go buy it now. So it's if you really just shut it down, let these people buy the things, that they want. There's people with $1,000 purses that have $10 in their bank account. Right. So, don't worry about those perceptions. And a lot of people that wear the name brands that have the nice things, they're trying to hide an insecurity that they're pretending to be rich and pretending to be a certain status. And, a lot of people that really just have a lot of money and they live minimalistic and they wear average brands. They wear shirts that are old, and, it's kind of, try to embrace that type of life. And there's a lot of happiness and a lot of freedom, and you sleep really good at night when you just stop wanting things and you just try to shut it down, try to at least slow it down. And you wouldn't believe just how happy your family could be, because you know, I have a family of 4, and it's 4 of us. We constantly want things. We, you know, it's just, there's just so many things, you know, with the video games, the sports equipment, the clothes, the vacations. And once we get it, then we just instantly want another, and we devalue that thing that we got. And it's just, it's really sickening, you know, and it's on, I battle that every day. And it's like, I'll never be happy financially because there's always something to buy. There's always some other stupid goal I got to make. So just try to shut it down. You wouldn't believe 6 months later, you're just going to be like a better person. You're going to be walking around later. So I would try that, and you won't be like having to worry about being a poor family and just trying to afford things and trying to just scrape by if you just shut it down.
Right. Yep. And, you know, I always say to my kids, the best thing that money could ever buy you is time. Right. If you have time to spend with your family, to be around, to be doing things, that's money well spent, you know, not on the bags or the clothes or the sneakers or any of that stuff. And it does start, you know, with the parents, right? If the parents are frugal, if the parents, you know the value of money and they're not all showy and have to have all the name brand stuff, it's going to trickle down to the kids. Like if I came home, you know, with a $5,000 watch on, or, you know, a whatever, $1,000 suit and all this stuff, my kids would look at me and be like, what the hell are you doing? You know, it's just not who I am, right? It's just stuff that's not important to me. Like I would much rather be able to invest my money to buy myself time, right? Time is going to be the most important thing. And it's also, it reduces the stress in your life. So it's like, you got the people who, you know, I mean, there are people who are very rich in this world and God bless them, you know, and I'm happy for them. And, you know, they might not be that stressed out, but there are also people who make a ton of money who are stressed, you know, beyond belief, just trying to keep up with it, right? Worrying that it all might crumble down on top of them. So yeah, in an ideal world, it's like you make a lot of money, you spend very little money, and you live a stress-free life, and you're around for your family. You're not working 7 days a week. I mean, I was there before. You know, when I first had my son 15 years ago, I was working in the bank. I was working 6 days a week. I would stay late at night, making phone calls, trying to make that money, you know, and I never saw him. I was never home. And
same here. I regret it, but it helped change like my family's life. But at one point, like I feel like I was a bad father because, you know, I was working so hard because I wanted to provide for them. And at that type, you know, I'm like, I feel guilty about that. Yeah. And I would never do that again, you know, kind of like I want to work hard, but I don't want to kill myself.
Exactly. And I learned as I went on, you know, so now by my 3rd kid, it's like I work from home. My wife works from home. It's like we put him on the bus for his first day of kindergarten a couple of days ago. It's like I'm here when they get off the bus. I see them all the time. I'm coaching sports. You know, it's just a different level. Like I would rather choose those things over, you know, sending them to private school and dropping, you know, 30 grand a year on private school when the town schools are, you know, more than adequate here, or them having the newest crap and all that stuff. It's just, it comes down to making smart decisions, you know?
Yeah. And the lifestyle that you're talking about for your 3rd child, about you know, just being present, like that is rich, you know, that is a status that a lot of people want to be, and they think they have to go through all these hoops and financial, income increases to achieve that. But you wouldn't believe how something that is so rich is so just cheap to get. You know, it's kind of like, so don't make things complicated. I decided to make things complicated when I was younger. I'll never do that again because time is not on my side. You know, I'm about to be pushing 40, and, you know, it's kind of no spring chicken anymore. So, you know, I really value time, and I want to make sure I'm present for my family, my kids, and, you know, the experiences, and they don't need to involve money all the time.
Exactly. And they're going to remember that. Like that's more important to them, even though in the moment, you know, they want $150 pair of Jordans or whatever, but they're going to look back and say, you know what, my dad was around all the time, right? He coached my sports. He brought me to practice, all that stuff. It's just so much more important than those little things. Like, yeah, if you could afford those things, then it's great. You know, if you could get, like my son, you know, he plays basketball, and it took a while for me to bite the bullet and get him a pair of Jordans, you know, a more expensive pair of sneakers. And now it's crazy. It's like, you can't buy any sneakers these days that are less than like $200. And I'm like, no way. And he learns by example. Like I have a pair of Nikes that I got, you know, through some website. I can't remember which one it is right now. And they were like $60. I'm like, dude, I'm not paying $200 for a pair of like running shoes or even basketball shoes or whatever. Like, I don't need that stuff. It just isn't important. You know, I'd rather do other things with my money that are more important. So again, it does go by example, but yeah, it's just the cost of everything is so crazy, and having your kids want everything, you will put yourself in the poorhouse if you say yes to things. If you get used to saying yes and you feel guilty and you're like, oh, well, other kids have this, my kids need this, you'll end up in the poorhouse because it's just the prices of everything are just through the roof right now. You just can't do it.
It's never ending. Like when we were kids, Rich, you had to wait till a catalog came in the mail, right? Yep. And you'd be like enticed by the catalog, all the stuff, you'd be going through it. These kids got the internet, man. It is never ending, bro. Like it's unbelievable that just how easily you could see stuff. My kids, they scroll on the internet just for fun, just to see like characters and stuff like that. And the next thing you know, they're asking to buy it. It's just the temptation's right there. It's a search away. Yeah, and it'd always be there. I mean, you watch the Yankee or Met game. Look at behind the home plate. The advertising just everywhere. It's on the mound now. It's just it's constant stimulation. Yes. So it's just going to be never ending. Accept it, but also know your way to fight that.
Another point talking about that, which just popped into my head because my son, I deal with it all the time, is like he sees people on YouTube doing this. He's like, I see people on YouTube, they go into a mall and they like have a tremendous shopping spree. And it's like, I just go around and just buy everything in the mall that I want. And they're like, let's go do that. It's like, whoa, it's like, that's not really how it works. Or even with 2K on the PlayStation, he's like, well, I watch this guy on YouTube and he just, he spends all of his money on there. He just opens packs all day. And I'm like, this dude must have, millions of followers and he's probably making $100,000 a month off of his YouTube channel, and he can afford to do that, but I'm like, the average person, they're not spending all of the money that they get on opening packs on 2K. It's just ridiculous. So they have these people in front of them all the time where it's just, there's no limit to things, they could just go ahead and spend all this money on ridiculous stuff like Mr. Beast, he goes into a mall. I mean, he gives away a ton of money also, but he goes in and he just spends $100,000 in one store in one sitting. And they think this is normal. They see people on YouTube doing these crazy things and they think it's normal, where we just didn't have that stuff when we were little. It's like we had to kick and fight and beg, in order to buy a video game or to get something back then. It's just, it's thrown in their face all day, every day. And they just think that that's the way life works, Yeah.
I think like they really, instead of like watching Mr. Beast, they should just watch us probably.
Exactly. Exactly. Get some education,
But I guess, closing things out, let's just do a little bonus round here. So you've been a parent, for 15 plus years. What is like your biggest tip to just survive? Like what has gotten you through it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think, and I talk about this a lot, but my biggest tip is you need to know your numbers. You need to know your budget, right? And you have to stick to it and you have to say no. So if you know that you have a certain amount of money coming in, right, and you have certain fixed expenses that aren't going anywhere, you have to prioritize saving for that financial freedom, saving for your future, even if a part of that is your kid's college education, right? But having those goals and prioritizing that over, let me go blow some money, on going out to eat or on my kids or on, whatever it is that they might want. So being organized and knowing your numbers. Where I see people getting into the most trouble is when they just have no idea, right? So, and a lot of people live this way. They don't track their spending. They just kind of go nilly-willy and they're going to be spending money. And then if they owe money at the end of the month, it's like, all right, I got to balance on my credit card. I know that I got to pay that off eventually. And then they get used to it. They get accustomed to spending like that. And then it becomes much harder to dial it back in. And then you see that credit card balance growing and growing and growing. And now you're just servicing the interest because they're banging you for 20% a month. And it's like, all right, I need to cut back, but there's nowhere to cut back, right? I have no money left over. I'm strapped, at this point. And that's when the snowball effect starts going. So it all starts by not knowing your numbers and not tracking where your money goes every month and not setting goals and not giving your money a job before you start, getting your hands on it to start spending it on things. So you have to come up with that plan. You can't go in reverse, right? You have to have the plan up front, stick to it. You can't wait till everything's done and then go, okay, now how do I fix that, right? You got to start from the beginning with a plan going forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love that advice. One of my biggest tips is just to live below your means. And a parent on a budget is a good parent. And don't think that you have to go above and beyond financially to provide for your kids, because you don't. You're a good parent by being responsible and being on budget. And that's going to make your kids really good kids. It's going to make your kids successful by showing and teaching them that stuff. So be on a budget, just like Rich is saying, know your numbers and just live below your means. It's pretty simple. And you'll be a happy, family with kids, and, you won't have to have the stress of finances like I once had. So, give it a try.
Yeah, and I always talk about also is like having those goals set up, and then once you hit those goals, then you have guilt-free spending after that. You know, like if you have a
Yeah,
certain amount every
exactly.
month that you want to save for your retirement accounts, for your 529 plans, you know, maybe you want to throw a little extra to your mortgage, whatever it is. When you hit those goals that you've already laid out and you have extra money, it's like, yeah, go buy your kid a pair of Jordans if that's what they want.
Yeah,
Go take
exactly.
everybody out to dinner, go on a nice vacation, go have fun. So I'm not like against spending money, but you got to do it in a smart way where you have your goals planned out, you're hitting your goals, you're putting your money towards those goals, and now you have extra money, and it's like, all right, let's go party with that money and do things that you know, that we could enjoy.
Yeah, love it, love it. All right, well, that wraps it up. Thanks for watching, everybody.
All right, good to see everyone. Thank you very much. I'll see you again next time.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.